Like I couldn't ground myself.
So you were literally relying on your OCD thoughts to like
tell me
your
who
reality.
I was. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Is that not crazy or what?
It is. And that's why you need therapy.
I need therapy.
No, because you say the things out loud and then you're like, I can't believe I just said that. I sound insane.
I know.
Because you are.
Because you are.
It's done. It's actually the craziest thing. And for me, like, I didn't know I had OCD therapy. I never was like, I have OCD. When I was in rehab the last time, my therapist kept me after group therapy and was like, I have OCD. And I was like, I'm not clean. I don't care about blah, blah, blah. There's no way. And she was like, yeah, but have you ever heard of like it's called, I have magical thinking OCD. And I was like, what's that? And she was like, I don't remember what she said, but I remember for the first time being like because I had genuine belief that I was the only person on the planet who had ever had the thoughts that I had, ever. Because they were so like, no one shamed me, but I shamed myself of like,
right.
It's insane that I'm 22 years old and I still sleep in my parents' bed every night because I'm so scared. I was like, I'm the only person that thinks these things. And then she was like, no, like it's 1 + 1 = 2. You have OCD. And then realizing that was like actually changed my life. It was amazing.
Because it's like freeing to not feel so alone. And also
insane.
that like nothing's technically wrong with you. Like you can have a label where like, yeah, maybe somebody would say that like having OCD does mean something is wrong with you. Like you're not normal. But like, actually, no, there's enough people have it that there's a freaking label.
Literally. And what I learned from that is like, I never realized how insane and like enlightening it would be for me to be like, other people think the same thing as you.
Yeah.
I will never forget where I was sitting, who I was talking to. It was actually so crazy and amazing. And then I had one session with an OCD therapist who's so sweet. And I was like, yeah, my therapist said I might have this because of this. Because I think these thoughts about my parents and about myself and about like when I take a shower. And then she was like, yeah, everyone I talk to thinks that. And I was like, what? It's crazy. It was actually life-changing.
So what did you do? Like,
yeah,
what did she tell you to do?
Well, I went to OCD therapy for probably like a year, once a week, virtual.
Mm-hmm.
And
wait, when was this? If it was virtual, it was like recent.
Yes, it was in the pandemic because I went to rehab August 10th, 2020.
Wow. So this is like quick.
Really quick. Yeah.
I mean, it's like 2 years, but.
Right. It wasn't like I still could email her any day. Like I had a couple months ago when I was just having a really hard time and things were coming up and I just had a one-off session with her. But eventually it became like, oh, I didn't need to see her every single week, especially because I go to therapy twice a week anyway. But I realized my coping skill with OCD is I have to say it out loud to someone. And like, there's a big thing with OCD that's like reassurance. Like you don't want your coping skill to be reassurance. Like I don't want to call you and be like, please tell me that I'm going to be okay. And then you're going to be okay. It's not that.
Yeah.
It's more of just like, and I'm having these thoughts and all this stuff. And my therapist taught me maybe, maybe not. Like that's the tactic. Maybe, maybe not. Of like, I'd be like, I'm going to die today, which I couldn't even say back then.
Yeah.
Because I'd touch my compulsion. I had a forehead touching thing. It's like every intrusive thought I had during the day, I'd be touch my forehead. And she would say, maybe you are. Maybe you're not. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes I'll have an intrusive thought like that building is going to fall on me and I'm going to break my neck. And my life is going to change. And I'll spiral.
Mm-hmm.
And then all I could do is, maybe it will, maybe it won't. And then another thing is like reinforcement, but not reassurance. Like I had the thing that I know a lot of people have where it's like, I'm in the shower and I can't hear anything. So I think that someone came in and murdered everyone and robbed me.
Yes.
And it's like my therapist, the first time I told her that was like, has that ever happened? And I was like, no. And she's like, I know. And she was like, how many times have you had that thought? And I was like, every shower I've ever had. And she's like, so based on history, like, do you think it's going to happen? And I was like, well, what if this is the one time? And then she's like, then it's the one time. And I'm wrong. She told me here's a crazy thing that actually shifted everything to put my trust in her. Because she would tell me exposures she would do for other people. Since mine was mostly just talking it out.
Mm-hmm.
She told me one time she wrote on her own Facebook page that she had died to show her client that it wasn't going to happen. Isn't that?
Like the therapist went on their own Facebook page?
It would be like if I went on Facebook and was like, Kelsey has died for 1 hour. And then she took it down after an hour. And she was like, I'm still alive.
Whoa. Really wild. And also, like, did they...
And
was
then
there
she
like
said,
a just kidding? Or
she was
like
like, this was not real,
yeah.
blah, blah, blah. I don't know. But I think about it to this day. And she told me like a year and a half ago. And I think about it to this day. She was awesome. She would be like... And it was never like, that's not going to happen.
Right.
It was just like, that sucks that you're thinking about that. And also like, you get it. You have OCD. But like...
Yeah, now we know.
Now we know. I've diagnosed you. But like, people who don't get it also just don't get it, as everything goes.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's like, I never said my intrusive thoughts out loud to other people because it would be like, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? You know? So...
I think the reason I've never like said them or voiced it is because there's part of me that's like, if I say it, then it's true.
That's my whole thing.
So I just keep it in my head. And I was kind of the opposite. I've been the opposite. I thought everybody was like that.
Wow.
And it's the same with ADD. I just got diagnosed with ADD.
Welcome to the club.
I thought everyone couldn't finish anything.
No, because that's how we talk. Because we say, oh, I'm so OCD. Oh my God, my ADD. Like, blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you know what I thought about? Sometimes I have to remember that I am mentally ill and not TikTok mentally ill. Of like, oh, I actually like... I have mental illness.
It's true.
Right. Versus like oh my God, I'm so bipolar today. Like I feel bipolar. Like, no, you don't. You literally don't. You're just feeling moody. There's a difference between like, oh, I'm so ADHD. Like, oh, I didn't finish my homework. It's like, no, I'm ADHD. I cannot function. It's rude, but that's a crazy way to live. Like everyone does this.
I really did because my mom was the same way. I lived in a house where like Kardashian. Every single room in the house the wall wasn't finished being painted. So I just literally thought that's my mom's a little kooky. I'm going to be a little kooky, but most people just have a really hard time. And then I'm like, no. And now I started on medication. I'm like, I'm a freaking powerhouse.
I can do anything.
I can finish dishes and put them away, and guess what? Dry them in between.
That's nuts.
What?
In the same space.
In the same space, and not go start a movie and get out a book and decide I want a watercolor. Like, I can do one thing at a time. Wild.
That's not everybody. Like, some people can really just do that.
I know.
I get it.
Okay. I feel like that's a whole episode. Really, truly, we've had such a precursor to this conversation.